Welcome to the 2022 candidate interviews that we're doing for Maui County. Today we're fortunate to have Keani Rawlins-Fernandez, who's running for county council again as an incumbent. And as a first question, Keani, I'd like to ask you, just in terms of this almost 2 terms now in the county council seat, what do you feel are your most important achievements that you've been participating in?
Mahalo for the question, Paul. Straight into the deep end, huh? With the first question. That's a challenging question because we worked on a lot of things this term again. Let's see. I think, I guess, choosing the top maybe 3. I'll go with the addressing housing. We were able to get the long-term rental exemption and classification passed and enacted. FY23 will be the first year that it'll take place. And then for housing, we also passed the Āina bill, and that helped to provide tax relief to properties along the shoreline, which are held on to by generational families that, property taxes have escalated in the last 10 years. And okay, so that's for housing. And then I would say for tourism management and economic development, we established a Tourism Management and Economic Development Temporary Investigative Group, otherwise called TIG, last year. And we came out with a 416-page report for the public to review all the work that we did and the recommendations. And I can go over some of the recommendations that came out of it. But I'm particularly proud of the bill that I introduced to cap transient accommodations, so hotel, resorts, timeshares, STRs, camper vans in Maui County. So that is heading to the Planning Commission and will be scheduled in about October, before October. So it needs to come back to council so that we can pass that into law. And last year, I also introduced and we passed the new transient accommodation moratorium. So that stopped the building of new transient accommodations. So that across Maui Island. So that included, again, hotels, resorts, timeshares, STRs, and B&Bs. That one did not include camper vans, the moratorium, because that's not a construction thing. But the transient accommodation caps bill does include that. I guess I will stop there. And I'll let you ask more questions. I'll do a follow-up on that, Keani. Then in terms of your involvement with our budget, seeing that you have oversight of really our finances for our county and setting up budgets and things, could you just comment about your role and what you've seen? I mean, we're increasing the budget significantly, and just talk about that increase and what does that mean for our county in terms of services that will be provided. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Okay, so we have to look at both sides, right? The revenue that we're generating or receiving. So that includes, the real property tax revenue, federal and state grants, and then all the fees and for service, such as sewer rates, water rates, solid waste fees. So all of these departments or divisions are self-funded. The water department is self-funded. The wastewater division is self-funded. So the sewer fees go to pay for all the CIPs and the operations of the wastewater division, and the same goes for the solid waste. Okay, so and then we also received a new tax from the state legislature, which passed the county TAT, the transient accommodation tax. So that's 3% added on to hotel nights, and we're recognizing $16 million in new revenue for in TAT revenue. So that's something new that we didn't receive before, substantially more than the $23.4 million that we had received annually from the state, our share of the TAT prior to the pandemic. Okay, so that's the revenue side. So we're receiving these new funds, and then we're paying for a lot of the services that were put on hold during the pandemic, a lot of the CIPs, so the capital improvement projects, which are a lot of the big ticket items, and then adding staff that will be able to carry out do all the carry out the new programs and the new legislation, one of which is the ban on pesticide use on county-owned and county-managed land. So in order to manage those lands without pesticides, we needed to add, I think it was about 13 new employees, and then a number of new equipment and supplies and stuff. So that was a substantial amount. And so road work, expansion of the wastewater so that we can move toward more reuse, and then acquisition of land so that we can do more reuse, and then protect for open spaces. So those are a lot of the big ticket items. So when we're talking about the $1 billion, I think we need to be mindful of all the things that the community is asking the county to do, and it comes with a cost, and that's part of the cost.
Great. Thank you. Next, we'll have Ann DeCathly.
Hi, Keani. I'm impressed that you can recite all that off the top of your head without looking at any notes. Wow. So with the budget, I know you were the chairperson for the budget, finance, and economic development, and I guess that comes up every year, right? Which is many months just addressed to doing that. What kind of things or programs did you have to cut, or did you have to cut any to make room for the more prioritized other budget items, appropriating for those?
Yeah, thanks for that question, Anne. Okay, so let's see.
What they call pork, right?
Yeah. So as we went through some of the items, okay, so I don't know if, when people think of pork, like excessive fattening of the budget, right?
Right.
So Maui County is known for its strong support of nonprofit work, as well as economic development. And so if by pork and excessive funding, discretionary funds would be thought of in that way, then that's what those discretionary funds are going toward. So that includes services for those that are unsheltered. It includes support for our arts and education. It includes a lot of the work for those, that need assistance in staying in their homes and first-time home buyers. So all of these assistance so that we can support our residents in remaining in Maui County. And then that which is mandated, right? So it's not discretionary, would be our core services. And those core services, include fire, police, so emergency services. It includes, the finance department, prosecuting attorneys. It includes corporation counsel, the council, and so this is some of the work that we're mandated to do. But then we're also expanding in order to meet the needs of our county, and that includes the new Department of Ag, and that's a few $1 million that we, I don't see it as excessive or pork in any way, because it's something that we need. It.
Oh yeah.
I see it as an investment in our future. I see it as an investment toward food security, and we've seen how food insecure we are during the pandemic. Yes. And so I see that as essential. And we're also trying better to not, externalize the costs onto our environment. And in order to do that, we can't be injecting all of the wastewater into the ocean as we have been. And so again, that takes an investment of taking R1 water and putting it elsewhere. And that the distribution lines, all that transmission lines, it costs a lot of money. The construction, the material, the planning and permitting and design. So when you break all of that down, if these are the things that we want our county to do, then that's what it costs for the county to do this work. In going through the budget process and reducing some of the programs, we reduced the number of employees' salary. So acknowledging that there are vacancies in different departments. Instead of funding salaries for 8 months, we reduced them to about 6 months most of the time, some of them to 4 months. And then that brought down some of the money. The committee also wanted to move some things from general fund to bond fund. But as many of you know, bond funding is basically just taking out a loan, which means that we'll eventually have to pay that loan back, including interest. And I think we need to be strategic in how we take out that loans, especially when we have a lot of people who can afford. And so what I was able to do in 2019 was structure our tax rates so that we're able to provide established thresholds. So tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. And I put all the houses in 2 main categories, and that's owner occupied and non-owner occupied. Owner occupied, we're able to provide tax relief to our residents. By bringing down the taxes. I believe we've proposed starting at $2 for tier 1. Tier 1 is property values up to $1 million. And then tier 2 is over $1 million to I think it was $3 million. And then tier 3 is that over $3 million. And at tier 3, the rate is 2.71, which is being proposed. It hasn't passed yet. We won't pass it until the second reading on June 8th. And then non-owner occupied. Non-owner occupied for tier 1, the first threshold again is up to $1 million is taxed at I believe it's $6. And then tier 2 is over $1 million to $4.5 million. And that we set at $8 per thousand. And then tier 3 is over $4.5 million. And we propose $12.50 per thousand, because what's happening is the impact that these more expensive homes are having on the valuations of property assessments it's increasing, and everyone's having to pay more in property taxes because of the valuations going up. And so taxing those that live elsewhere that are used to paying more in property taxes and that can afford to mitigate the impacts that they're having on our residents in property taxes.
Is that the first time that's ever been suggested, is this tier structure for tax rates for non-homeowner versus homeowner occupied?
Yes.
Great.
I proposed that in 2019.
Great. All right. Well, thank you.
Next will be Mark Joyner.
Hey, aloha, Keani. How are you?
Aloha, Mark.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Just wanted to kind of shift back to something you'd mentioned before, and that's the unsheltered, and kind of give us a quick briefing on how you're feeling, how the county's doing with that, if there's things that you would like to see that aren't being done, and maybe some of the issues around that.
Mahalo for that question.
You bet.
Yeah, absolutely. So as I mentioned in my response to Anne, one of the problems is that people, a lot of non-residents are using our homes as investment properties. And so creating a tax structure the way I explained to Anne helps to deter, those that are coming from out of state that are used to paying a lot in property taxes. And because our property taxes are lower, there's a higher, profit to be made here. And so deterring the use of investment properties is one way I believe we can provide more housing to our residents, as well as providing tax relief for those that will use their multiple homes for long-term rentals. So providing a $200,000 exemption to long-term exemption to the property valuation, and then providing a lower tax rate. So it incentivizes the use of multiple homes to be used as a long-term rental. And then, supporting more variety of housing being built. Last year, we acquired about almost 600 acres in Waiale. Part of that negotiation included was an acquisition. It was a dedication or donation of 23 acres off Hanson Road. And that is located behind Target. So that 23 acres, I believe that property is light industrial. And what I would like to see on that 23 acres, and really I'd like to purchase that whole parcel there, because it's just a portion of the parcel that
Right.
in that acquisition would be medium density, so more affordable apartments, so that we are providing housing that people can afford. Because there are people that are unsheltered, that are living at beaches and campsites, but also in their cars. And then what's commonly referred to as the hidden homeless, which are people that are doubling up in generational housing. And so providing more affordable housing is one way to try to reduce the amount of individuals without housing. And then supporting DHHL, because I understand a lot of those that are unhoused right now are, maybe waiting for their turn with a homestead lot
Right.
being called. So supporting DHHL and expediting their constitutional mandate of returning Kanaka to Āina. And so I've done that in several ways. One is exempting them from the Show Me the Water ordinance. They were never, that was never the intention to hold DHHL to the Show Me the Water ordinance. And so they're exempted from that now, as well as supporting the creation of a position that will act as a liaison between the county and the and DHHL, so that we're able to get, they'll communicate with all the different departments, the planning department, the water, public works, DEM, and environmental management, so that we can get Kanaka onto Āina. And then, is it 2020? We started the Commission on Healing Solutions for Homelessness. And so they've been meeting for almost 2 years now. I was hoping to get a little more like legislation or ideas coming to the council from the commission. I'm still hopeful.
That's always a good thing. I've noticed that it looks like the tiny homes project over there by the jail has been fairly successful. Do you see more of that in the future, or?
Are you talking about the pallet homes?
Yes.
Or the pallet? So the pallet units aren't tiny homes. They're what are they called? Like emergency shelters. And they were put up because of the pandemic, right? So Kahaleakiola, they house multiple people in one room. And so if we're asking people, if people have to quarantine, then they wouldn't be able to stay at Kahaleakiola. And so these pallet units served as a way to be able to isolate those that may have been affected.
Okay, that might not be what I'm talking about. I'm talking about that they're literally tiny homes. They're all white, and they're over there. That's
the one. They're called.
Oh, okay.
The company is called pallet units or something.
Ah, okay. Yeah. Okay, great. Okay, thanks, Keani.
You're welcome.
Ellen Lloyd will be next.
Hi, aloha, and nice to meet you.
Very nice to meet you.
And I have 2 questions. Considering, I always start this out with one job is enough. And considering that people are working multiple jobs to afford the cost of living here, and multiple generations are living in a household, and some of them may not want to live in multi-generational households, what do you think the minimum wage this year in 2022 should be?
Let's see. What was the last calculation? Well, I support a livable wage. We have had resolutions introduced, and we've passed them or adopted those resolutions to support a livable wage. I know that the legislature moved out legislation setting the minimum wage at $18 an hour 7 years from now, something like
6,
that. 6 years? Okay, thanks. I would support the 18 now, but I know that I guess the original Senate bill provided for some transition time.
4 years.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. So yeah, I'm supportive of a livable wage. One of the things that we did, and Councilmember Johnson spearheaded this effort, was increase the salaries for the PALS workers. So it's the summer program for the youth that the county sponsors, and they're non-union jobs or non-civil service. So we had control over their salaries, and we increased them to $15 an hour.
And then my follow-up question is, would you work at the county level to increase the minimum wage to a livable wage at a faster timeline than the state's timeline, which is 6 years?
Wait, okay, I just want to clarify your question. So are you talking about a minimum wage like statewide or for county?
Minimum wage countywide.
Oh, I don't think the county has that authority. Okay, I would be supportive of adopting a resolution to achieve that end. As far as the council being able to set the minimum wage for employees at in our county, I don't think we could do that, but I would be supportive of that. We have been trying to figure out how to help our county employees. Bargaining Unit 3, which is mostly women that are required to have higher degrees, whose counterparts are mostly men who get paid far more than they do. And so for equitable wages for our employees, it's been tricky because of the collective bargaining union agreements, the collective bargaining agreements. And the council does not take part in those negotiations.
So one more follow-up then. Would you be supportive of increasing the wage of workers who work for employers who have contracts with the county to $15 or $18 an hour? All workers who have contracts with the county. So that'd be with nonprofits, with for-profits.
Yeah, I could be supportive of that conceptually. I'll just need to see the details of how all of that looks and how it would work. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Great. Next, we'll have Bruce Douglas.
Keani.
Bruce?
Hey.
Hi.
Speaking to you from Bali.
Aloha.
Aloha. Tell us what is in your background that qualifies you to participate in running $1 billion corporation?
Sure. Okay. So my background, I have a master's degree in business administration and a law degree. And I worked for Ellie Cochran before becoming a council member. Prior to that, I worked for or interned for then Representative Jarrett Keohokalole, and now Senator Keohokalole. And I understand processes and how to sorry, I'm sorry for clicking so much. Provide transparency to our public. I think that's really important. Yeah.
Thank you. Just want to clarify that. And tell me, any council member can just sit on the council and vote on things. But the ones who really champion bills and initiate them and see them through is the real art of being a statesperson. What bills have you championed during your tenure in the council?
Oof. Okay. That's okay. It's a long list. Do you want me to just list them?
Yeah, list the ones you like the most.
Okay. Okay. Let me see. I have a
ones
list.
that are most significant.
Okay. Should I not list the ones that I already talked about?
Yeah, I guess so. So you just give me a laundry list of all the things you've done and championed as far as initiating, seeing through.
Okay, let's see. I introduced and passed the resolution to support, what was it called? Anyway, for recreational cannabis, so that we can help to diversify our economy. I supported digital equity to ensure that everyone has access to broadband internet. Let's see. I wrote and introduced and passed a bill to establish the Healing Solutions or Commission on Healing Solutions for Homelessness. Okay, let's see. I did a bill to incorporate, I guess it was a resolution encouraging the state to amend the statute that would incorporate Kalaupapa into Maui County at the appropriate time. I wrote and introduced and passed the Hua Makahikina resolution supporting hula, the long-term rental classification and exemption. And that was this term. Do you want last term too?
Sure.
Okay, let me see. I have a list. Oh shoot, it's not opening. Okay.
You can just give me a laundry list of your favorites.
I think I named a lot of my favorites already.
Okay.
Okay, that's another one.
Then my other question for you is, since you are from Molokai, there have been talks in the past about making Molokai its own county, separate from Maui County.
Mm-hmm.
How are your feelings about that, and what would you feel about moving forward with that sort of concept?
Okay. So making Molokai its own county, I am supportive of making Molokai its own county. We are working on the logistics of how all of that would work.
So it's still a work in progress on Maui, on Molokai itself.
Yes. Another thing that we're working on is land back initiative. So 56,000 acres that are controlled by Molokai Ranch has been on the market for $260 million, but there's a lot of liabilities associated with their assets, and the tax valuation, or the property tax valuation, is nowhere near that. It's closer to like $70 million. And so we are a group of community members are working on trying to acquire the 56,000 acres on Molokai, and then have that be owned and managed by the community. And we've been having public meetings so that we'll be able to accomplish this. And it's been looking very hopeful. Another thing that we've been working on as a community that I've been supporting is community-owned energy through shared solar. And that would supply about 20% of our island's energy needs through a community-based renewable energy project. And that's about 2.5 megawatt hours for our island.
Okay, thank you.
Great, Keani. I'll ask the next question.
Okay,
And
Paul.
it has to do with our charter. So we've been working now for a year and a half. The Charter Commission has been focused on a wide range of issues. And I just wanted to ask about two of the charter amendments that were discussed at the county council, where you had to vote as to whether you wanted to support that or not. The first one has to do with then the separation of the right now the department that we have, which has health, human concerns, as well as housing, to separate the two of those into two different departments so that we could focus more on the crisis also of affordable housing, but also deal with the unhoused population that we have. What was your vote on that, and why did you vote a certain way on that particular amendment?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I believe I voted no on that. So the reason that I wasn't supportive of that idea is I think we can accomplish what we're trying to accomplish by creating a division in the department. And that's basically, we're taking steps to do that already in this past budget, in creating that division and adding staff. I didn't want the community to think that bifurcating this department would be like a silver bullet, that it would just magically solve all the problems just by adding a new director and deputy director without all the appropriate staffing and vision. As we know, we can have positions, and it's a matter of leadership. And if we don't have the right leadership, even if we bifurcate a department, we're not going to get the results that we're hoping for. And so I think getting the right people in place so that they can do the work on behalf of the community. Some of the things that this council would like to see is, the county providing housing for our residents so that it can remain affordable for our residents for a longer period of time.
And as far as affordable for longer periods of time, are you in for having it so that it could be in perpetuity, like Nahali O'Malley's model at this time?
Absolutely.
Great.
That's the goal.
The other charter amendment that I wanted to ask about was about this new department that would be focused on then Hawaiian affairs and Hawaiian culture. What are your thoughts about that, and how do you see that really affecting then our community as a whole?
Absolutely. Okay. So for the Department of Waivi Resources, I voted in support of that proposed amendment for multiple reasons. One, that our county should be better grounded in the culture of this place, and that way decisions can be more aligned with our home, with protecting our home, with investing in our environment, in our culture, and our people, and recognizing our natural resources and cultural resources as valuable and precious, cherished resources that they are, and not as commodities in this hyper-capitalistic society that we've grown to become. Oh, you're on mute.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Keani. Next, we'll have Anne.
Hi, Keani. So along those same lines, when I know that you served as a vice chair of the government relations, ethics, and transparency, right? Otherwise known as the GREAT Committee. I think there was a proposed amendment that did not get support by the Charter Commission, but came to you about the water bill. It was the one that about to have the water department be autonomous or semi-autonomous, and the county asserting eminent domain over the EMI system. How do you feel about that?
Okay. It hasn't
on the ballot.
Okay, so
correct me if I'm wrong. Thank you.
So you're talking about the East Maui Water Authority.
Yes.
Was just introduced at the last council meeting and referred to GREAT, and then Councilmember Senensi will be taking it up in the APT committee as well for further discussion. So we haven't gotten there yet, but I'm supportive of this.
Thank you for informing me of the status and your position on that.
Absolutely.
Great. Mark will be next.
Okay, hey Keani. I just wanted to ask, with regards to the island of Molokai, if you feel that there are some real unmet needs at this point the county can impact on, and what those might be, and what your solutions to those might be, if they exist.
I'm sorry, would you repeat the question?
Yeah. So with relation to Molokai, what kinds of things do you feel that the county can address that aren't being well addressed at this point? And what kinds of things do you see in the future?
Okay. So I guess two of the things that I mentioned that the community has prioritized working toward is more control over our Āina. And while that may not be like super directly involved with the county, because the community is working on trying to hold that in a trust, in ownership and management, the county through economic development grants has been supporting that effort with the meeting facilitations. And then with Ho'ahu Energy Renewable Co-op, Ho'ahu Energy Co-op Molokai. So that's the shared solar project that I was talking about, and that's just one of them. the county has been supportive of the workforce development, so that when the projects, so there's the larger shared solar project, and then there's the microgrid projects and then nanogrid projects. We have invested in the workforce development so that for these projects, for the planning, design, maintenance, repairs, that our community would have the experience, tools, and they would hold the jobs for this work. And we wouldn't need to outsource and have people fly in for this work. So economic development, of course, is one thing. And so those are two projects that the county has been supporting. Another one is through Sustainable Molokai, and that is for increased food security on our island. And they've several, beautiful initiatives that we've been supporting is one, the mobile market. So it's kind of like the Maui Food Hub. So they started that back in 2015, and it's been so successful. And then they started, so we were importing about 100,000 eggs each month to our island.
Wow.
Right now. So they started egg layers program so that our community is producing the eggs for our island instead of importing 100,000 eggs per month. And then the other thing that they're working on right now, so they partnered with our Molokai Hunting Club to provide deer meat to our community. And that was during the pandemic and after. Well, I guess we're not after yet, but during the height of the pandemic in 2020, and continuing that effort to provide free deer meat to our community, which provides protein to community members, and it also serves to help control the population or manage our deer population on island. And they're starting a broiler program so that we're raising our own chickens on island as well. And then, just the continued protection of our environmental and natural resources here. Not destroying our reefs and our nearshore waters, not extracting too much water, so that we're supporting a healthy ecosystem, because so many people on our island rely on subsistence gathering for their food, and to stay connected with our Āina and our culture.
Absolutely. Yeah. What is it? Maui Pono is actually right around 56,000 acres. So I mean, that's a good chunk of land there on Molokai. I mean, there's no question about it. What kinds of things besides the outright preservation of the land would you be looking at?
I think Maui Pono purchased 42,000 acres from A&B, and then the 56,000 acres is under Molokai Ranch. Okay, and your question, I'm sorry, what was the question again?
Oh, so the question is, with that 56,000 acres, do you see most of it winding up in preservation? I'm just curious what kinds of plans the committee might have for that.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's about a third of the west side of the island, and then it comes up to Kaunakakai. A lot of the Mauka lands above town. And so some of the land above town, so our town is kind of in the, sea level rise and flood inundation area. So we'll have to start transitioning our town Mauka, so that, because it's going to be underwater. As well as, our wastewater facility, which is also on the shoreline. So some of the land in Kaunakakai would be, used possibly for that purpose, if that's where the community would like to move our town, unless they would prefer moving our town to Kualapu'u, in which case that we could use land in that area. There would be a lot of conservation land. There's some residential land under Molokai Ranch assets. There's also one low-income housing project and one affordable housing project that is owned by the ranch. And then there's one groundwater system and one surface water system. There are 3 wastewater systems. So for those systems, and then there's a lot of the private roads. So Kaluako'i Road is a private road under Molokai Ranch. And so we'd probably want to partner with the county for management of those assets. And then there's, so I guess to answer your question, a lot of the land would likely go into conservation, open space, but also looking at farming appropriate crops for the dry areas that wouldn't require too much water.
Sure. Okay, great. Thanks, Keani.
Next, we'll have Alan.
Hi again. I have some more questions. So, as you probably know, rents are increasing substantially on the 3 islands that the council represents. I know a bedroom in a house is now $1,300, $1,400. A 1-bedroom could be easily $1,500 to $1,800. A 2-bedroom house can easily be $2,500 to $3,000. So people are having to work multiple jobs to afford that rent. And some of our businesses, especially our small businesses, are having to leave their traditional spaces that they've been in for ages because the rents in those commercial spaces are going up. So what are your thoughts about residential rent control and commercial rent control?
Yeah, mahalo for that question, Alan. So one, for residential rent control, the way that I understand rent control working is that you would want to cap it or control it at an affordable level. And we're about 10 to 15 years behind the ball on that. So at this point, I don't see how we would be able to retroactively bring rents down back down to affordable levels in order to control them there via policy, which is why I've passed legislation to deter investment properties and then incentivize long-term rentals. The next step will be to incentivize affordable rentals because we have both the problem of lack of inventory for long-term rentals and affordability. So that legislation proposes to, address both those issues. The second is commercial rent control. Again, I imagine we would be facing a similar problem there because we've kind of missed the boat on that, where rent control would control it at affordable levels. And I don't think right now it's at affordable levels. And so I would be supportive of, a mechanism that would do that and help to control rent so that these companies aren't exploiting our small businesses. One of the things that Representative Tina Wildberger and I talked about back in 2018, and we've kind of revived, is the idea of having an organization, an advocacy group for these small businesses, because I went to a small business on Market Street a few days ago and was talking to the owner there. And she said that her husband has been renting and, has a commercial lease. And it's not the lease itself going up, the rent itself, it's the CAM so the common area maintenance. She explained that they have, it's increasing CAM, to, like $300 a month for landscaping that includes like a few planters out in front of his shop, which is criminal, and continue to raise the CAM on on this individual, and will let him out of his lease early if he will pay 3 months of rent in advance, and then they'll let him out of his lease. And so I don't know how all of this is legal. She said that she has been working with an attorney and that they're saying that it's legal. But I would like to, work on this a little more. I don't like to hear our small businesses being squeezed like that by realty companies.
And just a follow-up question, would you be in favor, and what are your thoughts are about a moratorium on evictions for families that have Kiki in the schools during the school year?
Eviction moratorium on families during the school year?
So families can't be evicted if they have children in school during the school year. So that way kids don't have to change schools and be disrupted from their schools and their friends.
I think, conceptually, that sounds like a good idea. I would just need to, it's always the devil in the details type of thing. So conceptually, I think it sounds like a great idea. How the rubber would meet the road is another story, and so that's always the challenge is writing that in a way that's legal and that doesn't unfairly put the burden on one side, because I don't think all landlords are evil. I do want to protect families, but at the same time, we do have bad actors that are tenants as well. So striking that balance is always the tricky part. And I'm all for ensuring that a balance is struck between all parties involved.
Great, thank you.
Next, we'll have Bruce, and Bruce will be our last question.
Yes, Keani. We're switching from an era of promoting tourism to managing tourism. So in the ideal world, if you had the power to make all the choices you'd like to see happen, what would you want to see happen to manage our tourism in Maui County?
Well, I think I would like to put a cap on the number of people that would be able to come to Maui. But I know that is under the U.S. Constitution. We cannot do that. So that's why I proposed a cap on the amount of lodging. We can also not cap the number of planes that come over. And so in the TIG, one of the things that was introduced was having an advocate for the county to work with the FAA to limit the number of flights coming into Maui County, or I guess Maui Island. And so that's one of the things. And if in a perfect world, that would happen. So hopefully, hiring someone that would be able to help advocate on behalf of the county will be successful. Let's see, I'll just figure it out. Okay. So in my perfect world, the legislation that I proposed capping the number of transient accommodations would pass the Maui Planning Commission, Molokai Planning Commission, and Lanai Planning Commission, comes to the council, pass the council, be signed off by the mayor, become law. Another idea that I put forward was to establish a commission for tourism management. Right now, we don't have that. We just we don't really have an entity managing tourism. We only have entities that promote tourism. So this would be the effort to have an entity that is managing tourism. And in the language of the bill, it would be those that could serve on the commission would not have a direct financial benefit. And how that is being determined, we're still working out the details, but basically not have a direct financial benefit from the tourism industry. And that way, they're not working against the intent of the commission, which is to manage tourism. And then establish a position that would be the chief of tourism management. So to establish policies that would help to manage tourism. We would have reservations in areas that are hotspots. I introduced a bill to limit parking at beaches and parks for tourists, so that residents would have more access to enjoy our beaches and our parks. And that's we're working on that, so that's moving forward. I passed a resolution to establish a tourism pledge, a Kuleana pledge, to be responsible stewards when they come and visit Maui County. I have been working with our community on the HTAD map. And a few of the things that we determined was that we didn't want Molokai being promoted in tourist magazines anymore, none, because the kind of the people that we want to welcome to Molokai are those that generally are visiting friends, like Mark does. Or family, so that they really are visitors. They're not tourists. But I also am okay with like some tourists who are coming for like ecotourism, volunteerism, and we're developing this agritourism with the homesteaders right now. And so just on a very small scale, but not promoting them in magazines. Promoting them with other schools, sixth graders, elementary school students and high school students. They often go on trips. And so, going to, coming to Molokai as on a class trip, for example, or doing, what are they called? They're called team builders, with different businesses, so that, people that are coming for a specific purpose and then returning home and not buying a property when they come here. Yeah.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Keani. You have answered a lot of wide range of questions. And I'm just wondering, is there anything that we have not covered that you'd like to comment on or let our viewers know about?
Okay, I think one of the things Anne kind of touched upon it regarding water, which is the East Maui Water Authority, and I'm supportive of that. And I would even support having a water authority in all the different districts. But water is a really big issue. One of the things that I've been working on for the past a little over 2 years is figuring out a rate structure that would provide more equity. And conservation. So equity for our residents, conservation for those in the tourism industry. The Grand Wailea uses about 500,000 gallons per day, which it's just the first time I learned it, just blew my mind. So working on that rate structure. And then, supporting the effort of Seaworm to designate the Lahaina Aquifer, which runs from Honokohau to Ukumahame, to establish ground and surface water management area for the Lahaina aquifer. So I'm very supportive of that. And then, of course, the acquisition of the Wailuku Water Company and the EMI, East Maui irrigation system, so that it's being managed by the people in an accountable way. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Keani, for this opportunity to have this in-depth interview with you. And I just wanted to remind all of the viewers who are voters here in Maui County that your vote can go to each of the county council members who are running for office. So it's just not focused on that one area where they're from. It's focused countywide. So please get out and vote and be an informed voter. Keani, thank you.
My closing. Oh, was that my opportunity to do closing comments? I'm sorry.
Yes, yeah, and now you can make your closing comment right now.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, you can learn more about me on my website at votekeani.com, on IG at votekeani, and on Facebook at facebook.com/votekeani. I'm participating in the public funding program again this election. Every qualifying $100, not $100,000, $100 or less. Coming from a Hawaii resident, 18 or older, will be doubled through the state's matching fund program. And that's one attempt of removing that flood of money into political campaigns by establishing an allowable expenditure limit. Everyone in the county can vote on all 9 races, like Paul said. And I respectfully ask for your votes.